Welcome to the Alter Ether podcast, where we're transforming energies to heal the world. I'm your host, Lisa Richards, and this show was born from a mission to uncover the truth, shift the frequency, and help you reclaim the power that's been buried under years of programming, poison, and spiritual suppression. Today, we're diving into the mysteries of Dreamtime. It's a subject that I've always been very curious about. Is it another reality, a portal to other dimensions, or just mental reruns? My guest, Christina Schwind, is a consciousness accelerator, visionary and intuitive, who works with healers, starseeds, and wayshowers to reclaim the power of their dream time. Drawing from her work with indigenous wisdom keepers, multidimensional activation processes, and interdimensional experiences, Christina brings profound insights into what dreams really are and what they can do for us. So welcome, Christine. Welcome to Alter Ether.
Hi, thanks. Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let's get right into it because have always been so curious. I have the craziest dreams. I mean,
Okay.
they don't make sense. I mean, some do. I've utilized them before to connect with a loved one who had passed away. So I know they're powerful and I know there's way more to it than we can even imagine. I mean, we spend half of our time sleeping, right?
Or at least the third. Yeah.
Yeah, so there has to be something more profound than these, what do they say, downloads that we experience from things throughout the day, that never made sense to me. So,
Oh.
can you go into that? Like, what are dreams really?
So dreams, well, the science has proven dreams are an alternate, what they call alternate reality. In my experience and the work I've done with different masters, it's part of this reality, but it's the unseen part of this reality. And the idea to keep in mind for this is that imagine many dolls nested inside of each other. And Dreamtime is some of the outer nesting dolls that are actually creating our here and now reality. So there's many nesting dolls at work all at once to create our here and now experience of the moment.
Okay. So, are we actually visiting like other realities and stuff as well? Because
And
you see people in your dreams that you know, but you've never seen them in this world. No?
Right. Yes, yes, yes. So, Dreamtime, we are very dynamic beings. Our biosuit is hyperdimensional, and because we are an infinite being occupying this biosuit, we have access to many realms, many different layers of reality. With the so contact experiences is very common in with the dream realm. Many times people get contact, like what you mentioned, with a loved one, but it can also be elemental beings. It could be mountain beings, nature spirits. It could also be things like angelics and ETs, other things like this. So when we are going into dream time, we are literally going into a hyperdimensional level of our existence to which nothing can't be at our access, but there is a lot that we need to do with our biosuit in order to prepare us to be able to clearly navigate what we're going to go into Dreamtime and do. Some people would do it for healing. It's necessary for all humans of the Western world to go through a lot of healing of their mental, emotional planes before they can really start cooking with grease, so to speak, in the dream realm. So this is part of the work. So yeah, unresolved issues gets worked out within dream time. It really depends on where you're at when you go to sleep and how intentional you're going to sleep.
Okay. Well, that would make sense. I mean, there's so many things that you can research about the meanings of dreams, like when your teeth fall out in a dream, it means a certain
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah, so what happens is that we are infinite beings in a biosuit, and as we come into this biosuit and we're looking out of these eyes, there's lots of nesting dolls of understanding of who we think we are. And by doing dream translations, it's a nice glimpse into what is in your belief system, what is in your conscious and subconscious reality. So some people really enjoy the dream interpretation side of dream work. That's not necessarily the place that I know and work with as far as what's really valuable,
Yeah.
because we can tap into the actual life stream that's creating our reality, which means we can add in whatever we want within those nesting dolls to create exactly what we want. The trick is, what do you want?
Yeah. Well,
So
then
If a great
Although,
genie came to you and asked you, what do you want, Lisa? What would it be something that comes easy, or would you have to ponder and contemplate for a while?
oh, absolutely. Yeah, I want to know the meaning of the world. I want to know everything, all the bigger questions. So that's where I would be traveling to figure that out.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's so many things.
It's so vast, but when it comes to your specific life, if you were challenged to what are the top three things, if you knew you would get it no matter what, without any kind of disruption, what would be the three things you want in your life? And this is a question I pose to people in the project as well. And it meets a little bit of confusion because there's the programming of who we think we are versus who we actually are. And that's the well from which we know what we want. That's where it comes from, like deep well of self, versus we're programmed to think certain things are valuable. We get them and we're not happy or satiated with it, right? So
Like working yourself to death and accomplishing something in a career, they are really mundane compared to the bigger reality of our world and how powerful we really are. And I say that all the time, and I'm going to say it multiple times in this podcast, but it should show you how powerful we are as human beings just for the simple fact of how much poison they have to put out. And
mhm,
we are still drudging on. They're poisoning,
mhm.
they're not putting the rat poison out once and killing us. They're poisoning our water and our food, the air we breathe, the medicines we take, the frequencies around us. Literally everything is poison. The stuff
Yes,
we
that's a
watch on
good.
TV.
Yeah. This is a very good point because poison takes many more forms than just a physical toxin. There's mental viral programs, there's emotional virus programs, there's spiritual virus programs. And of course, there's what we've inherited from our soul's journey and our lineage. When you start diving into Dreamtime, you start recognizing just how vast one is within this biosuit. We are so, so vast. And as we clean up the emotional, mental, ancestral pieces, then we start developing these unseen aspects of our biofield, and we become much more accurate and clear when we're perceiving in these other realms. Because there's a lot of, I'm going to say, beings that are reaching out to humanity, wanting to help us wake up to the truth of who we are. And some of them might be angelic or Christed type beings, but many of them are elementals. They're tree beings. They're elemental forces. They're the she. There's many inner earth beings. There's all sorts of beings that are really looking forward to humanity waking up to the truth of who we are. And it might seem like it's this lofty thing out there, but what I found, it's really about getting to your authenticity, being in your unique, authentic expression of creation, of life force energy. And it's not to pay bills and pay taxes, it's
Right.
to create beauty for ourselves and our community.
Right. So, what about nightmares? Are nightmares just like tough love from the other side, teaching us the lessons faster? Because trauma in our lives is really important. It helps us transform a lot faster. So, or a lot of people have nightmares when they're taking medications.
Yes, yes. So that's a complex question in the sense that we're heavily influenced by a lot of things, including the medicines we ingest. So there are substances we can put in our body that pull us into a lower astral realm. I'll just summarize it as that, a lower astral realm, in which case that's not necessarily where our spirit wants us or where we really want to work, but we did something that did that with our energy. So therefore we're along for the ride. We ride it until it's processed. So there are many different reasons for nightmares. Nightmare is something I would call like when you're in a strong fear state in the dream and when you wake up out of the dream, right? Very uncomfortable and it lingers for quite some time. Sometimes, depending on how sensitive we are and how developed these different layers of our energy, our visible energy body, they could be entities that we've picked up from some place or someone or an interaction. Bars is a great place to go and pick up entities
Oh,
if you want to
yeah.
try it out. And if you're open and sensitive, like many of us are, we're susceptible because why? We're compassionate, loving people. We want to help. We want to make things better. We want to alchemize.
Yeah.
And that's a journey figuring out that fine line between what's ours to do versus us stepping into a savior disempowerment role. And then nightmares can also be deep wounds coming to the surface that we are having a difficult time processing the energy of, or maybe it requires a shattering of an aspect of who we thought we were that was part of our protection mechanism of our ego driver, stuff like this. I've also had some what I would call a nightmare experience, but it was actually an interdimensional journey with beings that had a particular purpose and agenda.
Yes.
So but this is the beautiful thing about dream time. Whether your conscious life, if you believe in that stuff or not, doesn't matter. You will deal with it in dream time if you aren't able to make space for it in your conscious waking world.
Well, yeah, that makes sense because even if you're putting it in the back of your mind, trying to forget it, it's still there. It's still
Yes.
lingering. The energy is still there. It still wants to be acknowledged.
Yes. Yes. Our homeostasis mechanism of the biosuit extends to our invisible layers of our energy field as well. So whatever's not resolved, our system is doing its best to get it to resolve.
But so you mentioned our ancestors, our lineage, how we can connect with them.
Yes,
We can connect with them to heal things in our lineage as well, correct? Like, for instance,
absolutely.
breast cancer runs in my family. Almost every woman in my family has had it
Mhm.
multiple times, some of them,
Mhm.
So that's something where if somebody did the work and acknowledged it through dream time, they could actually heal it.
Mhm. Yes. So this is the thing. Most of our thoughts and feelings and biosuit patterning is dictated by our ancestors. So ancestor work is a major piece of awakening the dreamtime body because so we're starting to go into Dreamtime is an access point between many realms, and that includes the afterlife. That includes who we are without a biosuit, who we are before we came, who we are when we're done. All of those realms are at play. So the unresolved issues of our ancestors linger from generation to generation. Some people might describe something like a generational curse. And it could be because all of the women or all of the men or every other generation or whatever experience a very specific heartbreaking event or soul shaking event or series of events, patterns of living. Breast cancer is an excellent example because it's not about the physical cancer. That cancer developed in these unseen realms first.
Right.
It existed out here first. So it's a matter of addressing those spiritual, mental, emotional disturbances that cause that to arise out of our homeostasis system. Breast cancer, for example, oftentimes, not always, but often is something inside of us that compels us to give life force energy and deeply nurture stuff that's not true to us. It's
The
not actually.
motherly energy, right?
Yes, to the point of disempowerment. Motherly is good, but there's a point where it's a disempowerment where we're energy draining ourselves or we're disempowering others by being too much of a mother. So everything's a harmony. It really depends. And I don't like to say balance even because there's times when being true to yourself as a mom really pulls you into an extreme direction for a period of time. It's not forever, but it's for a period of time, and then also pulling back. So that particular example, I had a teacher that once said, being human is very messy. And there's nothing real clear cut about it. So we're flying blind. We don't know until after the fact or maybe in the moment if we're lucky.
Right. And we always love learning the lessons and trying to share them with other people so they don't have to learn it the tough way. But it doesn't matter. I mean, I love sharing this information, but people still have to learn the hard way, right? I mean, that's the
Mhm.
only time they really listen.
And so it depends on which layer within our biosuit field we're addressing and information. For example, it's really helpful to be informed when there's a certain narrative that's been propagated that is a straight up lie and causing people to be confused or highly stressed, anger, polarized. In that case, bringing information that kind of decodes the energetic trap of that, it's very liberating. It's great. And they're like, wow, I can see a different perspective now. So you get free. It's those ones that are really deep, 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 deep soul wounds, ancestral stuff. It's like that has to go through the experience. That is in the realm of wisdom that the elders would say can be known but not told. And it's a bit of a trick to figure out the difference
Right.
between what information helps one decode confusion versus what is a soul piece or a deeper piece for them to have space for.
Well, so I've had some dreams where they feel more real than life does here. Why is that? Why is that just, and it's not all of them, but
Mhm.
some of them are very, very real.
Yeah, because they're important. Your higher self wants to highlight that. There are dreams that we track even in the Dreamtime Healing Project that happened 20 years ago, and it takes a very long time to process the energies. Because when we're in dreamtime, remember it's a hyper-dimensional realm, and only a small fraction of those realms is human. The rest of those are beyond time and space, beyond human comprehension and framework. It takes time. Those really vivid ones is hyperdimensional. There's an overlay on top of the really strong part of your spirit coming through. And the overlay is the story that your subconscious created, but the actual energy transmission is directly from either source, your spirit, or guides of some sort.
Okay.
So yeah, they're very, very potent and they stick with you. You can probably visit that dream in just sitting here without even opening many fields because it's something that it's a congruent story within your biosuit.
Well, what about dreams that you have repetitively?
Hmm.
I don't have dreams that, and I'm sure a lot of people experience this. It's not the same repetitive dream every day or every few days. It's maybe once every few years or once every 6 years. It's so weird.
Can I tell a story about I had a repetitive dream as a young child?
Yes.
So, and it took me well, more than half my life to decode this dream. So the dream overlapped into waking reality as well. And in general, what it was is that I was on a planet where there was majestic sky or magenta skies and palm trees, and there was an invasion going on. And it was a alien invasion going on. And I saw very specifically the ground walking ships and the flying ships. It was
Yeah.
all very clear. It was a nightmare I had pretty often as a kid. And I'd wake up in a pool of sweat, and of course, it doesn't make sense. The sky is not magenta and
Yeah.
stuff. Well, fast forward many years, I end up watching this movie called War of the Worlds with Dakota Fanning. Okay. There were scenes in that movie that were exactly to a T my dream. And it freaked me out. I was just like, what? What? So the fact is that my consciousness was too out of frame to actually put into context what I was watching, what I was experiencing in the dream. But then as time unfolded and I started working with different masters that were introducing me to multidimensional awareness and activating that and the different guardians of different levels and all those little details, I finally woke up to realize that this was actually a lifetime, not a human lifetime. This was a major event for a species that I was once a part of as an incarnated being. And it was a travesty. And it was something that really was a deciding factor to the future of that species before they came to Earth. And eventually they did come to Earth many million years ago. And this is alternate history records. This is more through indigenous understanding of our history, not the colonialized history, which is not accurate and at
No,
all.
of course. Of course. Yes, I know.
Yeah, even the dates. Yeah, so just know that that's part of the confusion program is being told not the truth, being mistold what the
Lies.
actual
Yeah. We've
history.
been lied to our whole lives about everything.
Yeah, yeah. So what I realized through these communications and experiences that I was remembering a very significant historical event of that particular soul group and species leaving their home planet and being seated elsewhere. And one of the elsewheres they were seated was here on the realm of the Pachamama, the earth.
Oh, wow. How long did it take you to figure that out?
Gosh, about 3 decades.
See, okay, I'll give you an example of one of the crazy dreams I have because that brought forth one of the memories that I had. It was an alien invasion as well, but they were crashing. Spaceships were crashing all over. And I ran into this restaurant for cover, and the waitresses had little baseball bats and were hitting cinnamon or cinnamon toast, and it was sticking to the ceiling. And
Mhm.
so it was weird. Yeah. And I was carrying an artificial Christmas tree with me for some reason in a box that was falling apart, and I had to get on this train. So I left my tree at the restaurant and then ended up getting captured by some aliens down the road. But I mean, I don't have crazy dreams like that all the time. Sometimes I have very real ones, like for instance, my uncle who committed suicide. He, in the home that I live in here, I always wanted to connect with him to see if there were any other negative things that have happened in the house before so I could cleanse it properly. And for 3 nights in a row, I would ask my uncle to come to me in my dream because I had a question for him. And the third night, I fell asleep, woke up. It was as real as you and I talking. I walked out into my living room in my dream. He was sitting on my couch with his arms on the back of the couch. And I was like, Uncle Rick, and asked him the question. And, he answered it right away with a name specifically that I had never heard before. That was one of his friends. And yeah, it was amazing. So I know that there's important aspects of it, but I'm like, is somebody messing with my channel or something sometimes? I don't know.
Yes, this is a great example of intentionally using dream time. So great about ancestors and working with them is that they can compensate for the aspects of the different layerings within the invisible parts of our biosuit that are not quite ready that aren't fully online, activated, integrated. So you're talking about the poisonings earlier. There's a lot of mind poisons, spiritual poisonings that subconsciously are in a lineage that have shut down on many levels and over many generations. So it's work to reconstruct those layers of ourselves and make them strong again and reintegrate them into the biosuit. Because once it becomes reintegrated, we can touch a lot more things with our liminal awareness. When energy is not integrated, then it stays in that elusiveness where you can't explain it and you're just
It's
always
spinning, it's spinning, it's spinning. That's what
exactly. It's
happening.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like on your computer, the endless spin. But here's the key though, to help you and anybody else that might be interested is don't try to understand dreams with the mind. Instead, journey through the feeling, like just the feeling, the emotions, and that will give you very rich data sets and insights to what's going on with the dream in the dream realm. Every dream, and I know a lot of people don't think that every dream is important, but every dream has the opportunity to touch that space that's beyond the human experience. I call it the rabbit hole of the dream. And so, in dream time, you're cycling, and you usually have many, many dreams within the night, but usually we don't remember them. But the cycles go like you'll start off doing something very mundane, like going to the grocery store, cooking dinner, something like this. But then something weird will happen. That's the second stage of the dream. Like, I don't know, a purple eagle jumps out of the soup and starts singing Hare Krishna or something, right? And then that is your subconscious filling something in that your mind can't deal with, right? Or be properly framed up to. So right after that event, that really throws you for a loop, like what? And that's usually the part that gets all the attention in the dream. But right after that event is the rabbit hole to go down intuitively and with your emotional field to get to what's happening beyond the human experience. That's your spirit directly looking at you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. So what happens if you learn to become lucid in the dream then? I've heard there's
Oh,
different techniques where you can
mhm.
literally train yourself to wake up in your dream.
Yes. So I have another story for this. I just came from the Psy Games, which is a first of its kind. This is a conference where scientists and experiencers get together and share their extrasensory abilities. So there are universities with departments now for post-grad research that closely track intuitive abilities, psychic abilities like this. It's the Department of Perceptual Studies.
Okay.
And that's at Virginia University, particularly. And so they talked a lot about tracking the brain with lucid dreaming. There's a lot of talk about lucid dreaming, and some people will go through certain kinds of activation processes and then begin to lucid dream. But it was interesting because the big part that they're missing is that they're still staying in the human realm in their dream. It's just really clear,
Oh, yeah.
right? So if you want to get into what is actually manifesting this reality beyond, the human aspects, which is, like I said, just this tiny piece, you need to get past the human realm, and you need to have a guide. In the beginning, you need a guide like an ancestor to meet you like at that plane right on the edge. And that edge could be into expansion, or that edge could be going deeper into the earth. Both are kind of expansion, believe it or not. But it's in there's
Different
relationship.
realms.
What's that?
Different realms. Yeah.
Yes, different realms, still expansion required to engage with those realms. But yeah, so if lucid dreaming is something that's going on, then you can definitely use that time to look for the rabbit hole. Like I said, meet an ancestor and they can take you. You can meet another kind of guide, which some of us have very special dream guides. This is for the unique individual, and you might meet them, or you can sit, if no one comes to meet you to help you out of the human realm, you can sit and meditate in your dream, and then you'll start to access other realms beyond the human realm in that way.
Okay. Interesting. How about, I'm sure you're familiar with Robert Monroe. And
Yes.
one of his trainings, he teaches people just how to, once you feel your body asleep, you're kind of in that waking sleep state where you know you're sleeping, and then you spiritually kind of roll certain ways to get
Yeah. So,
into different dimensions or something like that.
yeah. It's changing your perceptions. Perceptions are key here. Take a drink of water. So the Monroe, it's many members of the Monroe Institute were there as well, that at the Psy Games, sharing the research, and they had experiencers that were doing telekinesis and other stuff. There are lots of techniques. That particular technique, what you're doing is you're letting the body mechanism, the biosuit, fall asleep, and you keep your awareness alert. And once you make that connection where I am not my body, right? The body is separate from my awareness. That is a massive actively activating event that cascades through your system. And then you can now dislodge that association with your consciousness and body. So, yes. Also, what happens is that the brain, the amygdala, gets activated when you're right at that edge that we're talking. And usually there's a major terrifying event or being that is standing in the present in your presence, and there's chemical explanations for this, but in more indigenous dreamtime understanding, and what I call feminine medicine, this is the true magic of feminine medicine, actually. And a lot of people approach it because we have a colonized mind to intellectually go through, but the best thing, you're better off not knowing anything
Yeah.
and just with the presence with yourself. That's the most potent thing. But in the scheme of that understanding, the being is guarding. If you're going to be manipulated by fear, that's the moment that's going to trap you. And that's usually the part that most people have a hard time getting past, is when that amygdala part gets activated and they have that something under the bed, or a boogeyman in the corner, or
Yeah.
something like this. But once you get past that, then you're at that stage where that activation happens and you have the realization that your awareness is not your body.
Right. So, are you familiar with Jason Quitt?
No.
I'm sure you'd love his work, but he spoke about, and this wasn't a dream, but he spoke about how he would have scary beings when he was a child visit him every night, and they would harass him. They would terrify him, and he was terrified for the longest time. One day, he was just so used to it that he reached out. He said it was a being that had big ears that stuck out sideways, and it was pretty funny looking. And
Mhm.
he had him pinned up against the wall, and he just laughed in his face, put his arms around him and gave him a hug and said, "I love you." And he instantly went away.
Mhm.
And he hadn't been visited after that.
Yeah. Yes. There are many beings in the astral etheric realms that are you can deal with that way. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's an interesting realization. See, but then he got the activation though of that consciousness different, or the awareness different than the body. That's a really powerful thing to happen in a lifetime, because we so believe we are who we think we are. We are so attached to our stories of why we feel a certain way, why we do this and why with that. And this is a big, let's say, shake off. This that at that moment is a big shake off of the need of those narratives.
Yeah.
You literally become liberated in so
Well,
many ways.
literally after that experience, he had ascended masters visiting him and teaching him different things. They taught him different postures. He literally wrote a book called The Egyptian Postures of Power and multiple
Aha.
other books because of
Yeah.
those experiences. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Very good. That's good work. That's really good work.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
oh, go ahead.
I was just going to mention about postures in the body. The biosuit is magical. It is really powerful, and sitting in a particular posture with a specific intent slash breathing or something you do to alter your consciousness, it's a real profound tool for us.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm just getting more aware of that, meditation wise and things. I've been meditating for quite a while, but not in different postures usually. So I want to definitely expand that and try some different things. I had a question that arose when you were talking about a little bit ago. I wanted to see your opinion on this because I remember reading a story once where a girl was murdered and her body, her organs were donated to another young girl. And that young girl started having nightmares and literally helped the authorities catch the guy who murdered the first girl whose organs she received. Is that like something that was just impressed on her organs? Like, or was that her literal memory? I don't know.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I know the story that you're talking about. I've heard
Yeah.
it a few times. Yes, so this tells us just how programmed our biosuit is.
Yes.
Our tissues, everything is programmed. This is why ancestor work is monumental in liberating yourself. Yeah, it's in the tissues. Your tissues are held together by fascia. Fascia are these microtubules of water. Water holds memory. So all of the memories of the shock traumas and everything else that it was experienced in the biosuit, plus programmed by the parents, is in the tissues. So you're going to disconnect tissues from one biosuit, put them in another biosuit. They still have the patterning of that other biosuit. And so when that other being consciously illuminates the biosuit, it's going to have those records, those memories because of the fascia and the water.
So
Mhm.
do you think it's a good thing to donate organs, or do you think that's something that has to remain with us? Because I feel it's part of us and we don't truly fully die and go to the where we're supposed to be if parts of us are left behind. I don't know.
Yes, dismemberment is because that's a way of, I would say, arresting the expansion of consciousness for quite some time. There are hundreds of, they call them cephalophiles. They're saints that have been beheaded or mutilated in some way by different,
Yeah.
well, usually the church, but there are other
Yeah.
kinds of things too would happen. And yes, so dismemberment is a way to cut off people's energetic blueprints and certain. See, this is where you started getting in between life and the realm after. And there are things that can be done, absolutely, like death rights. This is something that I encourage everybody to look into having for themselves. And I don't mean the death rights like what the Catholic Church would do, because that's the death rights I've been exposed to, where they do the Southern Cross over the energy centers. It's like there's a process to actually unravel all of the unresolved emotional, spiritual, mental issues that the ancestor had so they can move on with a clean slate, and all the descendants get liberated from having to live out that pattern. So this is a gateway between realms, which is really, really potent. So to answer the question, I think everybody needs to decide for themselves. For me personally, I don't donate. I know that it saves lives on some levels, and there's this sort of thing, but for me, it just doesn't feel appropriate.
Right. That's how I feel as well. And I really just came to that conclusion over the past few years. I don't even think blood should be donated. I
Mhm.
mean, it's the same thing. Our energy is ingrained in that. And as a medium, I know how powerful it is to even have something that a material item like a ring or something from a person, their energy is on that as well, when they pass away, and you can use that to connect with them in spirit a lot
Mhm.
faster.
Yeah, so you're talking about, and I'm just going to say this in a different way, frame it up a little bit. You're talking about the energy signature of things that are 3D, because we think 3D is just 3D. It's not. That item, even say a ring, for example, exists in many dimensions. There's cells and molecules that came together to create that precious metal, that has a consciousness, that has a connection to the deep cellular memories and records that can be read. And then there's an energy signature of that. So it just imagine it getting layered on, layered on, layered on. And then this ring, you might only look like it's maybe an inch,
Right.
but energetically, it could be really big and have lots of records on it.
Right. So that makes sense. I don't do this often, but I just recently tried mushrooms, trippy mushrooms, a few years ago for the very first time. And that just reminded me of that because everything you looked at, whether it was an inanimate object or a living one, was living. It was alive. It was moving. And you felt like just you were in an all-encompassing world where you were just a part of everything. I literally saw like we were a big quilt and we were just all interwoven into one.
Yes, yes. So psilocybin and other sorts of plant medicines are a way to access those realms more true to what they are. And it takes time to integrate this because we have perceptions of how we think rules of, like, say, physics and other things work. So it does limit to how much we can take in and understand. But the more, and I don't encourage doing hallucinogenics ever just because of other, I can go into that later, but it
Yeah.
is a good tool for people that want to break through in certain ways. Absolutely. And the mushroom is a spirit that is interconnecting everything, literally everything on the planet. So it's a wonderful spirit to connect with and learn from.
They're like the fascia of the earth, really.
Yeah, there you go. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. And they have a depth of interconnectivity that we can resonate with, and we again add that interconnection that we are into our perspective, and that changes us. That changes how we relate to things, how we have chosen in the past to understand things, stuff like this.
One thing that I did, I remember, oh gosh, probably about 4 or 5 years ago, I started journaling my dreams.
Mm,
And which really helped me remember them. As soon as I would wake up, I would grab my journal and write it down because a couple minutes later, a couple seconds later, you would totally forget your dream.
mhm.
And so then it really helped me starting to retain at least one dream every night. Well, then I started making my own ormus,
Oh,
monoatomic gold, a superconductor of energy. And I started taking that at night. After a week of taking that, I woke up one morning and remembered 8 dreams beginning to end. 8 dreams. I was just amazed. I mean, it was crazy. And I got
wow.
out of the habit of doing that, and I really need to get back into it. But yeah.
Okay. So that's fascinating. It's amazing. Really good. Kudos to you to be able to wake up and write things down right away. That oftentimes is too big of a leap for a lot of minds to into what do you translate, because you're taking something very abstract and putting it into a linear language. But because there are other ways that are perhaps easier for people to do their recall. But the Ormus thing is very interesting. And I don't know if you're aware of the Ormus gold, or the monatomic gold, being part of the Egyptian mystery schools, and particularly how it was influenced by different reptilian ancestors and star beings. That was their way of activating the biosuit to access realms. It was secret, only
Yeah.
the initiated, only, they started to do that in the evolution of those mystery schools. So it could be that you already have very powerful initiations from those times
Well,
that's
so
activating.
that makes sense. I know they call it mana. They used to call it mana in the Egyptian days. But that makes sense because I have ordered some powerful mana from another spiritual teacher, some Ormus, and I took it. It gave me energy. That's mainly what I wanted it for. But it wasn't like the Ormus that I made. When I made my own batch of Ormus, I had put a lot of intention into it, what I wanted it to help with. I put it underneath a pyramid and charged it, played my, singing bowl, put crystals around it, let it charge in the full moon overnight. And I think that was the key. I was making it specifically for me. And actually, when I was tripping on the mushrooms, having that experience, I could feel it calling to me. I knew it was in a jar upstairs, and I could feel that energy that was resonating from it.
Yes, yes, it's in a perfect harmonic with you. This is the key. It was something that once things are harmonic, it's very easy and it doesn't take a lot. When there's disharmonics, then that's where a lot of the drudge work comes in. There are times in the past where I would have just the tiniest bit of something, but because it's such a strong harmonic, it would be really potent and strong in my system, just with the tiniest bit. And or even revisiting the medicine song itself, could reactivate experiences. So that harmony is the big game changer of life. Imagine if you were harmonic with all of your relations around you. So much of your life force energy would be freed up to, well, create beauty, have fun, make joy. And this is where we're going towards, and then this is the new paradigm visionary part, is going towards a reality where we are harmonic with ourselves and our surroundings. And that means technology, that means nature, that means the different systems that we have in play, all that.
So, Christina, you have the Dreamtime Healing Project. Why don't you go into a little bit about what that is and how you can help people with this, help them decipher their dream time?
So this was something that took a long time in the making. I worked with, like I was talking about, Dreamtime masters, and they would teach me in Dreamtime. And then as I integrated those teachings, I would, if I was lucky, I would get to meet them in person. And this happened a few times. And what started to flush out was that dreaming the world into being was something that was part of my purpose. And it's not just dreaming the world into being, remembering how to do that and then actively doing that, but it's also helping others wake up to the same process, to the same ability. So
Yeah.
this is maybe psychic intuitive times 1,000.
Yeah.
Because you're not manifesting exactly how we understand manifesting to be. It's more of being in resonance with that frequency and it just coming to you. So this is the feminine medicine. And what came of a lot of toil and work was the Dreamtime Healing Project, where we were able to create a very clear method of process of experience so people can build that dreamtime bridge and activate, strengthen, and use their dreamtime body to the capacity, to the potential that it's meant to be. So in the Dreamtime Healing Project, there's facets to it. One is getting techniques on building a strong energy field and getting those unseen aspects of your biosuit strong, activated, and integrated. So that's a lot of healing work. That's sometimes, ancestor stuff, this kind of thing. And then as simultaneously as you do that, then you're also going into the dream work, which means you're tracking dreams in a group. So you're learning how to track multidimensionally with your awarenesses. And this is really a beautiful, beautiful process because people realize that they are way more intuitive and psychic than they ever imagined, and just how beautifully accurate they are. The key is authenticity. The key is coming from, I'm going to say, an empty space for that, for the I call it data sets, for the data sets to arise. Because so many times we get intuitive data sets and it doesn't make sense. It's like,
Right.
this is weird, we have judgments about it, whatever, and we don't say them, or we hold back, or we feel like, right? But when you do this in groups, you'll notice that when you share a profound data set, it brings data sets forward for other people. And the next thing you know, you're tracking in a group. And there's so many more perspectives available. So you are going to track more accurately, vastly, and get more out of that, but than if you're just doing it yourself. So the new paradigm is not about the me anymore. It's about the we, doing these things in a group, in a community. And that's a major piece of the Dreamtime work, is sharing in community authentically, being seen, cultivating these tracking abilities, all this stuff. And so all that gets addressed in the Dreamtime Healing Project. My favorite, my favorite part is not the overall consensus of the favorite part. My favorite part are the dream clinics where we're tracking in groups, but the consensus, their favorite part, are the quantum activations, where we put all the techniques to use of building a strong energy field, and then we open the fields and start interacting with different interdimensional guidance that we have. And very often lately, there's a race of beings that are dream masters. They're amphibian in nature, and actually we have indigenous lore about them and what they look like. Even a movie made of them, which is totally distorted and not true. But once they start coming into the field, that when we're tracking, it's like miracle. Get ready for a miracle because we're about to watch something amazing go down. And that's why I get excited about the Dreamtime Healing Clinics, because it's like real, that's where the rubber meets the road. This is how you embrace that capacity of dreaming the world into being. Just we need help because we have our wounds, we have our attachments, we have our programming, and it takes some work to let those things go. And if you're curious about what those beings are, I can go more into that because it feels like they're totally ready for me to talk about it if that's of
Yes,
interest.
of course. I just wanted to touch real quick. It reminds me of when I started mediumship. I didn't trust myself fully. I knew that it was real because I had experienced it from someone else. But my first reading, it was somebody sent me a picture of their grandfather. And I heard the first thing I did, I saw a black lab. I heard the name teddy bear and I smelled Vicks vapor rub. And I was, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. I don't want to tell her what I'm experiencing because it doesn't make sense to me, right?
Mhm.
But as soon as I told her, she was like, oh my God, I had a black lab who passed away. He sat on my lap all the time, so I called him my 100-pound teddy bear. And he had a lesion on his leg, and the vet told me to put Vicks vapor rub on it. And I was, no shit. It shocked me, but that was the moment that solidified it for me. And it wasn't the fact that I wanted to, well, I did. I wanted to share this with the world. And it wasn't the fact that I could do it. It was the fact that you can do this. I wanted everybody to know that they could do it too. And it's so sad that a lot of people, even though you bring them that information, they want nothing to do with it. They don't
Yeah.
care.
Yes. Yeah. Well, we all have our soul purposes. And for this awakening process that we're in, we concur about this. Maybe we call it different things, but this awakening process that we're in, not everybody is meant to be involved. We don't need everybody. It's really actually a small percentage.
Right.
Some people say a few billion or million. Some people might say 5%. My own guidance told me that of the souls that are incarnated here to wake up, only 20% of them are going to wake up. So that's how difficult it is to get through the illusion delusion of this life,
Yeah.
because we're born and given value systems that are not really true to our being. They're about how to get a good education, how to have status, how to have money, how to have stability, how to have a family, or all
Yeah.
these things. And it might not be true to any of it, might not be true to us, but we'll do it because we don't know anything else. We're not exposed to anything else.
Right.
So it's funny about the lab thing, because I had a black lab too that is a spirit guide, and he guides when my grandfather comes and visits me. He visits me with my lab. His name.
Oh, how sweet.
So animals do that. There's a lot.
I've always had a connection with animals, but I just want to tell this story real quick, and then I would love an introduction to the beings you were speaking of. I really want to connect with them as well. But this should tell you how powerful you are as well. And it's not a story I like to share. It actually scared me, but I used to raise rabbits when I was a young girl. And one day, my favorite rabbit escaped. And I spent hours trying to catch him. And right when I was about to catch him, my brother's cat jumped from behind the tree and killed him right in front of me.
My
And I
goodness.
was so distraught. And it was the nicest cat in the world. He was so sweet. We loved him to death. But at that moment, I had all the hate. I think I've never felt so much hate in my life for anything. I went upstairs to my bedroom and I had a big mirror sitting on the floor and it was covered in dust. Oops. It had a thin layer of dust over it. And for some reason, I don't even know why I did it, but with all that hate, as I was doing it, I drew a picture of the cat and I put a big X across him. And as soon as I put the X across him, I wished he was dead. I was envisioning him dead. The next day, my dad ran over that cat and killed him.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
That
I
is
know
hard.
I mentioned this before to some people, and they're like, "Oh, you didn't do that." And I know I did it. I know I did it. It
Yeah.
just felt so real, but
Yeah. So when we look at that from the human perspective, we could say, oh, Lisa, that was a terrible thing,
right,
or just deny the validity. But because we do know these other realms are very active and influencing the reality, it's very helpful to open up to another perspective. And that is that rabbit and that cat agreed to do a dance with you
right,
to show you something really powerful that was going to impact you for the rest of your life. And that's what we all do for each other. The animals are not as attached to their life form as humans are. With humans, we have a big funeral, and then there's lots of
Oh, yeah.
grieving. And I mean, not that I haven't lost people, I have, but our relationship to loss has been weaponized. So it's way more intense for humans than it is for animals. So for an animal to come and say, yeah, okay, I'll live for 18 months and get slaughtered at the end, they'll do that. And this entire reality, this is one of the things we recognize in Dreamtime, is that this entire reality is here to facilitate us in some way.
Right.
And when we start taking things personally and taking things to heart, and that doesn't mean that being human isn't messy and painful, because it is, there's a lot of suffering out there. But, when we have this other perspective, and it's a true perspective, it's just not something we tell ourselves to shut something down, but an actual truth that lives inside of us, it really helps us let go of these programs that keep us locked into thinking and feeling and relating to in certain ways. I have an example, not as extreme as yours, but I was just coming out of dark room, which is an experience that the different Taoist masters would do. So you go in dark room for a long period of time, 11 days to 29 days, and you're in total darkness. And during that time, your interdimensional perceptions blow wide open, and then it's a very transformative experience. But anyway, the last one I did, we got out a day early, so it was 10 days, and we come out right at sunset because we've been in dark for so long. And I was just relaxing in this area in this, I guess you could call it a lounge. It was in Thailand. Everything's open air, very, very hot and sticky. I mean, triple digits and lots of humidity. I mean, and I'm watching this fan go by, and there was a moth in the fan just playing around. And in Dreamtime, it's kind of tripping, right?
Yeah.
So I was watching this, and I was in many realms at once. So it was kind of tripping watching this happen. And then the moth zigged when it should have zagged, and it got whacked by the fan, and it was playing up there, and it got whacked, and then I saw the body just go and hit the floor, and I look up, and the moth is still playing in the fan. I was, oh, it took a second. I was, okay, I get that.
Yeah.
So the physical journey when it ends, it doesn't mean anything ends at all. It's just that physical part is no longer available for us to imbue with our essence anymore.
That's funny you use that story. I just did an interview with my mentor who taught me mediumship, and she used that same analogy that she would teach her grandchildren, that we're all caterpillars. And even though grandpa passed away, he just transformed into that butterfly. You just have to look up to see him, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And there's a real strong tie between Dreamtime and the afterlife and the transitions between. So they do end up coming hand in hand once you start diving into it, and seeing these alternate, or I'm going to say those invisible nesting dolls and how they play together. So they do overlap, and it's powerful to work with both. It's very liberating personally, but also for your children and grandchildren, and of course, even your ancestors, they all get liberated too. Reality is not what we think it is. This is what one of my teachers would say to me all the time. Reality, and she would say it over and over and over again. Reality is not what we think it is. And I would be like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I would have the little lesson that maybe took my vision from here to here. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, I got it now. But no,
Not at all.
so much more. And it keeps showing me over and over again. It's a rabbit hole. It goes deeper and deeper. And it takes a lot of courage and commitment. It takes a lot of, really, it's part of your purpose. If you're doing this, it's part of your purpose, which is to have some sort of soul level service to your surroundings here, to the earth, to your community, to the lands that you live on. This is what gives us joy. And that's why so many people talk about life purpose, soul purpose.
Yeah. I remember going outside as a young kid, though, and I mean, we never grew up religious. I've always had an open mind, but I just remember looking outside and looking up at the sky and saying, this place is so fucking weird. Like, I would
Mhm.
say that to myself all the time. I still feel like it. It is so weird.
Yeah, I remember having thoughts like that as a child too, something similar. And then there was another time when I just had this major lucid moment, and I just realized how messed up I was, like as far as the programming and all the layering. I was just like, oh, oh my gosh, am I too messed up to fix? It's really, that was
Yeah.
the feeling. And then, of course, that moment of lucidity goes, and then we dive back into the everyday part.
Well, one of the most powerful healings I ever experienced, they took me to a couple past lives, and those past lives felt so much more real than this life does.
Mhm.
It still freaks me out. I mean, they just felt so real. And
Yeah.
it was really cool, the healing that she did. She actually took you to a place where you were 100% happy and had you resonate with that feeling of happiness to remember what it felt like. And then she would take you back through your life and touch on all the traumas, and instantly your trauma would be healed. You retained the lesson, but you didn't feel like you were there experiencing the trauma from it. It was really cool.
Yes, that's a great technique to use because that's what happens. We have thoughts and feelings about the trauma, and that's stronger than the uplifting happiness part, or the higher version frequency of you. So you can't, so it's very difficult to hold space of acknowledgement of something that needs to be acknowledged because our thoughts and emotions and judgments are happening. But when you can reinform your frequency so you can truly hold that space, that is very powerful, very, very powerful. Our presence is so potent. We discount it. We think it's not anything worthwhile, but it is. It really changes lives when it's full, when it's the authentic presence. When it's our mind game or our ego driver, it's in those frequencies, then no, that's not going to resolve much. But when your essence, when you're very strongly holding space on that level of self, you can unravel lifetimes worth of wounding, ancestral wounding, and so on.
Well, I'll go back and touch on how I said we have to realize just how powerful we are. But what an honor it is to have beings that are so much more powerful than we are, who we're babies in the stages they're trying to evolve us to, right? They're there to help us and guide us.
Interesting perspective. That's not one that I prescribe to. I
Really?
understand why, yeah, I understand why people would feel that way because these beings have more of their presence in the interdimensional realms than we do. But
Right.
when we have our presence in those realms, there is no one more powerful. Great example would be the stories of, say, Jesus Christos, the Christos incarnations, which there were many, not just one, and that changed history. That changed everything each time that they visited. So I just have a different perspective on it. That's all.
Well, why don't you introduce that? You were going to talk about the beings.
Okay. So Dreamtime. So the more we work with Dreamtime, the more we start lifting the veils from the delusion that we think is the solid reality. I love it when people say, "How do you know it's real?"
Yeah.
And then I come back with, "Well, what is real?
Yeah.
What does that mean?" Some people think because you can knock on it, it's real. But then we have stories that profoundly influence a trajectory of one's life. Is that real? Are the thoughts you have on a daily basis and make decisions from, are those real? Are your emotions that you have on a daily basis, are those real? Right? So we have a lot of evidence in front of us that there's a lot more to this reality than we can knock your fingers on. So real is, most people don't even understand what they're asking. So getting to, there are beings that are very potent beings that we work with as we step out of the illusion delusion with Dreamtime. And there are, I'm going to call them a race of beings, though there aren't many that exist, but they do exist, and they are prolific in the sense that they can be in many places at one time because they're not confined to linear time and space in any way, shape, or form. And these are a race of amphibians. And these amphibians have existed here in this realm. This realm being the Pachamama, the realm of the mother.
Yeah.
I don't say planet and I don't say world because that is also a perspective. In the dream work and the dream master work, this is a realm. It's not a planet. It's not a flat earth. It's not any of these things. It's a realm. It's a dream realm that is held by the earth herself. Okay, when you start weaving that understanding in there, you start to realize, okay, there isn't actually an argument between the flat earths and the round people. It's all the same realm.
Yeah.
It's just that they're looking at it in different perspectives and they're not able to marry the two. The trick to Dreamtime also is not the yeah and or yeah but, it's this but. No, no, no. It's always an and. It's this and that. And when you can hold those two things in your awareness, the jewels start to come forward that really free your perceptions in a lot of ways.
Okay.
So these beings Once you start freeing these perceptions, they start coming in to hold space for you. They start coming in to guide you in how to use your ability to dream the world into being. And there are two movies that I know of that depict these beings exactly as I see them. And one of them is, you're going to laugh, The Swamp Thing. Remember that black and white
Oh,
movie from the
yeah.
60s? Yeah, The Swamp Thing. And of course, it's a horror movie, right? Because this is what Hollywood does. It makes everything amazing and sacred into something, a
Right.
movie into voodoo dolls and voodoo. I mean, they totally turn that into a black magic practice. And it's like,
Yep.
very few voodoo people do that, really. I
Yep.
mean, there's consequences. Anyway, so, and the other movie is a more recent one, is very engaging and a little bit closer to how they manifest, if they were going to manifest in this realm, is The Shape of Water. The Shape of Water. Very unique movie, very unusual. And they come when you're ready to really expand beyond belief. Our beliefs we hold so strong and they are very potent in creating this reality. But when we unravel our beliefs, it's even just as potent. Okay. So I can take something that you think it might be, objective, which is say fire is hot. We all believe fire is hot and it burns. So that's what is going to happen when we're in the presence of fire. That is what we are going to find right relationship to, how to be in right relationship with the power of fire. Okay, it's a transformative principle that we're looking at when we watch fire. So when you get a group of people together that are connecting with the fire, exchanging energies with the fire, and everybody agrees in that group that the fire is no longer burning, is no longer hot and destructive, the properties of that fire actually change. And you can put your hands in it. You can put things in that fire and it will not burn. So I've seen this myself, done this myself many times. And this speaks to how powerful our beliefs are.
Yeah.
So these,
Spoon bending. I tried spoon bending before, and it's kind of the same principle.
yes, I just did spoon bending the first time the other weekend. It was so easy. I was
Like rubber, like you just bent. Yeah.
like, in that group, they were laughing at me. They're like, you should have seen your face. You were so surprised. I'm like, well, yeah, I've never done this before. Anyway, and it's just when we're at that place where the beliefs are where they're not as strong in how they hold us, then the amphibians are going to present, and that's when real I'm going to say juice starts coming into the dreams, and other beings are getting introduced to you, and you start to become, and this is what the whole thing is about on a certain level, on a collective level. You start to become a human ambassador to the non-human realms. And this is something that is desperately needed because these realms used to be occupied by many humans, but now there's hardly any. Just recently, we did it was an activation where the Kogi, certain realms, members of the medicine people of the Kogi showed up in the realms in Dreamtime, and they were ecstatic to see us because they're like, we've been waiting.
Uh,
One's been coming. And so that just speaks to the poisons that we've had throughout the generations, throughout the thousands of years that have shut us down, shut us down, shut us down. And now this is the time of waking up, waking up, waking up. And we need ambassadors to speak for humanity because on these realms, because all of us have a vote that counts. All of us have an influence that really matters. And the powers that be, those old structure holders that are falling away,
yeah.
they had their purpose, they had their time, whatever that may have been, but it's time for that to all fall away. And we cannot rely on, say, like our government to cultivate ambassadors that are that are true to.
Yeah. Looking out for our best interest ever.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wouldn't even say human's best interest. I would say to the best interest of life,
Yeah. Yeah.
because life is what this is about. Pachamama, Mother Earth, is amazing life producer that never ends. And this is another example of mind poison. We have all this pain. We're carrying so much pain about the destruction of the earth and the ecosystems and all this stuff. And yet we are trapped to live in this system that creates more of it. And then we start getting angry at ourselves, at each other, because there's more we can do. There's more we can do. And then it's like our problem. It's like we start believe that we're the cancer on this planet. And that's not true. That is a structure and a story given to us that we were born as sinners or reap thistles and thorns from the earth with a curse or whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of biblical stuff and beyond that's been told to us, but none of that's true. We are part of nature. Take anybody, any human being, and give them a plot of land and they nurture, they are going to create something amazing with that energy. It doesn't matter if it's arid in the beginning or not, just the human attention, time and attention and passion with the land heals it and it regenerates and restores.
Right.
So that's not what we're told. We're told by the Green Initiative about how awful everything is, but it's not. The fact is, yes, things are getting destroyed. Absolutely. Terrible things are happening, but beautiful, amazing things are happening as well. There's 300 new species being discovered every year. There's a species of mushroom that has outcropped out of the abyss that can eat radiation. Thank goodness, because we have Fukushima and lots of other stuff, right? And then we have algae that have arose out of nowhere that eats microplastics. You know, so this realm has a response for everything that needs to get reharmonized and balanced, but that's not what we're told on a regular basis. And but when we shed those stories and those agendas, we start to realize this is an amazing, amazing place that we are unlimitless in our power to influence how it unfolds. And that is the mission, dream the world into being.
Absolutely. And I really feel that Mother Earth is helping us on this journey as well. I don't think these crop circles that keep popping up are created by other beings. I feel it's a message directly from the Mother Earth, trying to wake us up that she's creating these.
Bringing code meds to reinform the water, to,
Right.
yes, reinform humanity. Yes, that's a really beautiful perspective.
Well, I know you wanted to go into death rights. I know you touched on it a little bit, but did you want to go into it a little bit more depth?
A
More
little bit in the
deeper?
context of ancestors, I think it's important because people usually, when they start looking into dream work, one of the first comments is, oh, I never remember my dreams, or I used to remember my dreams, but not anymore. And the fact is that it's not about you can't or cannot do it. It's understanding that frequencies, these nesting dolls of frequencies, heavily influence your conscious experience. So for example, if you tell yourself you can't remember your dreams, then you're reinforcing, right? But then the other thing is that we need to understand about these frequencies and our brain, and that this all these interactions, we can set up nesting dolls of interactions where we are heavily supported in connecting with the dream. And it doesn't need to be in the mental field. Most of us don't touch dreams in our mental field. Like what you were talking about, waking up and writing the story, that's you have a very skilled mental field to be able to do that. Most people don't have that, right? This translates into the reason why we're mixed match in all these frequencies is because what we've inherited. So we've had great gifts that we've inherited, but a lot of times they're buried underneath ancestral pain, wounding, belief systems, stuff like this. An example would be if, so say you were born a very sensitive child, you're psychically open, you yourself aren't religious, but you come from maybe your grandparents and your great grandparents from the old country were staunch Catholics, for example. That programming, that energy is informing your biosuit. So as you gestate in the womb, it's all, you're being layered underneath all that stuff. And you oftentimes a sensitive born in a suit like that spends a lot of time resolving those belief systems. They have to do a deep dive into philosophy, or if they have to do something to decode these blinders. And all this could be easily taken care of with doing death rites for past beloveds. Now, if you can do it when the person is in the process of dying, it's very, very powerful and healing for everybody involved. Oftentimes, we don't necessarily have that opportunity. It's after the fact, which we can still do death rites after the fact. And what will happen is that those gifts that you've inherited from your ancestry get liberated from being buried underneath all those belief systems in different ways. Our consciousness has been programmed and steered, let's say, shut down. And it's profound. It doesn't need to be every member in your family, though. If you could do that, that would be amazing. Amazing gift to offer them. But key ones, key members of the family, that you've inherited things from. I have an example for myself. I have a lot of Scottish heritage, Scottish in proper Scotland, but then also in Northern Ireland, what they call the Orange Irish. And there's a lot of upheaval and discontent and animosity between North and South Ireland to this day. It's really not a friendly border to go across. If your car rental is from Southern Ireland and you go into Northern Ireland, it'll get vandalized and vice versa. Stuff like that. It's still to this day. So this animosity between brother and sister, between families, this fiery hostility and this fiery rebellion I've inherited from my Scottish heritage. And part of what I was doing here in Appalachia was cleaning up that fire, that over fire. It's one thing to have fire to set a boundary, to hold something steady when it needs to be held, but it's another thing to be explosive. And,
Yeah.
the Fighting Irish, that's a term for a reason.
Yeah. Right.
Yes. So, and this was particularly with the rising of the masculine energy. So I was able to facilitate some releasing via with death rights and this kind of thing. And it's like I felt a weight just lift off of me. And I didn't even realize it was there until it unwound. And then I woke up the next day and I was like, wow, this is what it feels like not to have that energy signature coursing through my body.
Hmm.
And so this is how profound it can be.
Well, that makes sense that we all have underlying issues with our frequencies that we need
Yeah.
to address. And we don't understand it because we were never taught it. We don't really feel or acknowledge that it's there because if we were born with it, we've lived with it for a long time and it's part of us now. I've learned that from when I got into Reiki healing or energy healing, people would fight those frequencies because it's been part of them for so long. They didn't want to release it,
Yeah.
right? They didn't know anything different.
Yes, yes, because subconsciously it's giving us a structure of familiarity, something that we know how to work. Maybe even if it's dysfunctional, at least we know how to work it a little bit, right? It's
Yes.
like you just don't want to let go of it. The other thing about with death rights is navigating the afterlife, because there are a lot of conflicting narratives of what's going on. Some people consider this a prison planet. Some people are in recognition of a reincarnational loop that souls get into.
Opinion on that. I've been hearing that a lot lately as well.
Okay, so I had a near-death experience in 2006. So my experience was not all right. So there's options. There's an entire universe to explore. But whatever our belief systems are while we're in that from transitioning from the physical into the spirit, those beliefs, thoughts, and feelings are heavily going to influence that intermediate stage. It's just the fourth dimension. It's 4D. I don't know if you
Yeah.
prescribe to that kind of language. And so very strong feelings of family members, everybody's belief system, all of that is in the 4D field. And if the person is unclear, maybe they were drugged or something because of pain or whatever, sometimes they don't even realize they died and they're still interacting with those energies as if they're still alive. And that is going to have a consequence in their soul's journey in certain ways. Sometimes it'll delay, sometimes they'll decide that, hey, hanging out in mom's energy is really comforting and warm, and I love her so much, and she loves me. So I'll just
Stay
stay
here.
there.
Yeah.
And that happens a lot with family members and beloveds, period. But then there's a whole universe of things that can happen. There are beings also that come up from the telluric realm. So, for example, if you had a lot of addictions, if a person had a lot of addictions and constantly betrayed themselves for their addiction, there's energies that are very dark and off-putting, scary,
Yeah.
that are going to be present in that time in between. So they'll need to navigate that. Not everybody navigates that successfully. Some people do, some people don't. It really depends. again, on belief systems and thoughts and feelings. Suicide is another great example. Everybody has thoughts and feelings about that.
Just going to bring that up. We spoke about that with my friend Peggy a couple episodes ago because my uncle committed suicide, and right, he was one of the first people that came to me for my reading. He was supposed to be burning in hell, right? What he did was wrong, but he came forth with nothing but love and positive messages and was happy knowing that there's going to be a good energy in his home for the first time. So that's powerful. But I brought this to her attention as well during the chat. It just came to my mind. I wonder, she said that a lot of people that commit suicide in spirit, they'll tell her that they don't remember doing it. And I think they're just resonating at such a low vibration with such low emotions that those entities at that point take over and do it for them.
It's that particular issue is a little complex because of a lot of factors. Because if there's energies, entities that are around through portal or environment or whatever, and they sense that someone doesn't want their body anymore, this is the highest commodity in the cosmos. So there's plenty of beings that are more than happy.
Yeah, they're waiting in line.
Yes, exactly. So, and there actually are walk-ins that negotiate with people who are dying or do want to commit suicide and negotiate to have a commander their biosuit when they cross. So there's that kind of thing that happens too. I've actually met a gentleman that has that in his story. He's a walk-in, and the gentleman that he didn't commit suicide. He was very ill and died on the operating table. So he negotiated with that spirit, with that soul to have the body to animate. And he did. He imbued the physical form, completely different personality, psychology, healed the body of everything that was killing it.
Wow.
And now is a teacher in this life. So there's we have a lot of confusion and blind spots when it comes to that space in between. And the more we can talk about it, the more helpful it is. This thing with your uncle, I think it's great. That means he did not have the guilt and shame program running, telling him he was going to go to hell. He really thought it was the way out that he wanted. A good, what does that mean? But that was the way out he committed to. And there are cultures where there's nothing wrong with suicide. It's completely acceptable. It's a noble way out in some traditions, such as the harikaris, the samurai. It's like that is a noble death to kill yourself that way. So this is all about beliefs and feelings and stuff like this. My youngest daughter had a boyfriend. She was 16, 15 years old. Oh my gosh, it was so sad. He ended up hanging himself, and he came from a very strong Catholic family. And I remember his spirit coming at one point in time. I was upset with him because I knew when I met him he was going to break her heart. I just didn't realize it was going to be like that.
Yeah.
So I was working through my own emotions, but so I pushed him away, and eventually I was able to go through the process with him, the death rites process with him, because he kept presenting. And there was a lot of family members that believed that he was going to burn in hell. So he was fighting a lot of inertia to actually move him into that plane. So we did the death rites, we unwound a lot, and he crossed over, and then later he came back to me in a dream and showed me that he made it to the other side, and that he is choosing a new body, and this time he's going to come as a little girl to a family that was very nurturing, and one where he can explore his true self. Because this other family he was born to, there was a lot of pain, a lot of drama, and he was very oppressed. He felt very oppressed. It's great to be able to offer that kind of liberation for a soul on their journey, so they don't have to. There's this model that I was shown. I know I was halfway in thought, but this will illustrate it more clearly. And what it showed was that, there are mechanisms within these invisible realms that cause us to split off and split off and split off beyond the actual core experience that our soul has chosen for this life. And how it was painted for me is like, imagine a bullseye. When you do archery, there's those different rings. So when you get the actual experience that the soul originally intended, that's one arrow, boom, right to the bullseye, done, complete. But there's mechanisms that fractalize things beyond the original intent. And so what happens is that in this realm, when we incarnate, we have to hit every single, like 1,000 arrows in the outside circle, and a little bit, more arrows on the center, until eventually we'll get the bullseye. But now we're talking about thousands of incarnations that are unnecessary. That's how it was explained to me. And that really clicks because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, I get it. The more consolidated we are and authentic we are, we're going for the bullseye. And the
And
more
it'll be just like second nature. I know I used to love playing darts, and it was always when you would follow through and just trust yourself, you'd push right in the center.
great spiritual lesson in Dharma. Yes, yes, it's everywhere.
This has been so fascinating. I love talking to you, and I would love to have you on again. You touched on how you can help people with their death rights, your Dreamtime Healing Project, but let everybody know a little bit more about your work. What else do you do and how they can find you?
Okay, thank you. I would love to come back. I love talking about these things, and like we were talking earlier, there's certain information that helps decode some perceptions that are stuck because we just haven't heard of an alternative that resonates, you know? So it's really great to talk about these things. So my work, I'm very multifaceted. Primarily with the Academy, it's about building a strong energy field, strong energy, dreamtime body, and start cultivating those ambassadors so we can dream the world into being more potently and directly. That's the big. I do other things. There's already energy moving here by talking about these other things. So we clean up things that are creating blind spots for people. So that could be Akashic record work, that could be removing imprints from the light body work. There's a multi-dimensional facet to that. That it depends on what you come with, and it all depends on what your purpose is and why. We work with way showers, we work with the new paradigm visionaries. So you're already on that path of, let's say, busting out of the matrix, you're already on that
Yeah.
path. So we unwind those intuitive blind spots that keep you blind to those pieces that maybe have you in a loop. And it's a passion. We also do sacred journeys. So we go to vortex places, we go to stargates, we go to different places and do work in that way. And right now there's a big push to come to peace, come to right relationship with the telluric realm and the she. And this is recent. This is a recent dimension added in that I knew was there, but now it's really coming on full force. So this is working with, what beings like elves, right? People think elves are mythological creatures. Actually, no, they're these benevolent elemental intelligence
Yeah.
that are actually pretty tall and, and long hair, and think more of like Langalas.
Really?
Yes, yes. And not all of them are from this plane. So they're from other planes too. So we connect people with star heritage stuff, exo species that they belong to, or maybe they're simultaneously working with. Another thing that you wake up to is that you exist in many different realms, not just this one. So for example, many of us have a inner world counterpart to us and an upper world counterpart. Some people might call the upper world counterpart the higher self, but these are nodes of our being that stay in those realms in relationship to us navigating the middle realm.
So the other one would be the shadow self, probably.
Right. So shadow self, that's a very handy way of perceiving things. I feel like there's a lot of people, once they understand how the shadow works, then they get really empowered by that. It's all about relationships. So nothing is good or bad, right or wrong, which is a little bit difficult to digest because,
Yeah.
boy, we point out a lot of wrong things in this world. But when we're waking up past the program, there's no good, bad, or right or wrong. Everything is playing a role that was agreed upon. Even in our flaws, even in our blindness, we're playing these roles. And those roles they're exactly that. They're a role that it's our soul service to this realm. So that role might be to be a disgusting person, or to be an amazing person, or to be a hurtful person, or whatever. You don't know. You're only navigating, right? Everything is learned in the moment. So there's the sacred journeys, there's the online training. I would say, death rites is something normally done in person, the training for that. And there actually is a gal here a gal in Ohio that is manifesting a death rites circle because she really wants to bring this into her community because it was so, so, so profound for her. That her unraveling was for her mother that died many years before, and it shifted a lot of things in her world, made things a lot easier, a lot better for her in her world, and a lot of forgiveness. So there's healing in the heart. And just a little side thing on that, this work that we're doing is opening the heart space to be our authentic self. And when we're in our heart space, we're much better people. We make much better judgment calls because it's no longer about ego driver, keeping things safe, staying in control. It's about the interconnectivity. So when you're with someone, you are not alone in that. It's like you're aware that there's two forces interacting and the magic can happen in the interaction. So it really heals us in this way. I've been doing this a long, long time. It started off with energy medicine about 30 years ago, and it's evolved into something else. I don't even know what to call it anymore. Dreamtime is the best thing I have to describe it. But we have other facilitators that specialize in things. Laurel, who, for example, she specializes in like crypto species. So we're talking about fae beings, we're talking about elemental beings, Sasquatch beings,
Yeah.
all sorts of, she's got amazing connection with that realm and has a lot of beings that reach out to her and speak with her in this kind of thing to help humanity wake up to that ambassadorship. And then our dear sister Stacy specializes in the ancestor work. Actually, she's going to be doing something in September to help launch people into just the profound change that can happen with ancestral healing. And that's it's an online thing. And then we have an oracle named Ray Ellen. She's also from Ohio. She's such a special creature. She uses astrology, but she's actually like a galactic cosmic oracle once you sit down with her. It starts off like an astrological conversation, but it turns into direct downloads from these other aspects of self. So the vision is, it's all encompassing. It's about your authentic nature when it comes down to it. If anybody is interested in these things I've talked about, we have a lot of free stuff that people can do, and that you can find that at lightbodyacademy.com.
Yeah.
And there's
All your links will be in the description below for everyone as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, I guess that I'm not really sure what else to say on that.
Before we close, I have one more question. So I want to leave our audience with this. If our dreams can shape who we are when we're awake, what else are they capable of changing?
Everything, everything. Do we have time to, I have a short story to tell.
Of course.
Okay, in my youth, I worked very closely with Bob Carr in the East West Center. He was a macrobiotic chef. And macrobiotics, for those of you who don't know, it's a healing modality that's been around for many decades. And it's around diet and lifestyle and all those other things. And it was founded by a Japanese duo, George Osawa and Michio Kushi. And the Kushi Institute is what we have in the States. So Michio Kushi tells a story that in the jungle, and this is true, there's still humans to this day that have no outside contact. And these humans don't live in the same way we do. And what the story is that there was a medicine man in one of those tribes that had no contact, that a ship came, landed in their village, and transmitted psychically to the medicine man a message that they had for a man living in Boston named Michio Kushi. And so this medicine man says, okay, I will send the message. Now, he's outside of civilization. He has no papers, no money, doesn't know the language, probably wouldn't recognize a car, train, automobile, but yet he ends up at the doorstep of Michio Kushi and speaks to him in perfect English the message, which is, you're on the right track, just keep going. And this is before he founded the centers here in the US. And then he walks away. And that's the end of this guy. And Michio is like, what is this? What just happened here? But because I'm aware of this dream time and malleability of this reality, because this reality is extremely malleable, as you've shown with that cat story, it's very malleable. We just, don't really focus our energies very well usually. That we can pretty much move through the world like that medicine man moved. He didn't need to play by any rule or get permission in any way. He just did it.
Right.
That's the power of dream time. That's the power of dream time.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Christina, for being with us again. We'd love to have you back.
Yeah,
I love connecting with you. And guys, we can't wait for the world to wake up. As always, we amplify, we alchemize, and we alter ether.
Mm.